11:30, so I will get started. Thank you all for coming out. We may have a few more people come in, and they're welcome to come in. I think it's nice to see such a large crowd here. My name is Jim Dwarkin. I'm the Chancellor of Purdue University North Central. Entering the room is Vice Chancellor Paul McGinnis, Vice Chancellor for Student Services. And so we made a big announcement yesterday, and I thought I would just give a little soundbite about the announcement, and then take any questions you might have. I've done about, well, I did two of these sessions yesterday, one at Purdue Cal and one here, and I've been on the radio several times. And so I think I've hit most of the questions, but you may have other questions, and particularly anything you think you want to ask that relates to students. But you can ask me anything you like about this. So let me start at the beginning. I'll take you back to the year 1999. I was Associate Dean at the Krannert School in West Lafayette, Management School. I'm a labor economist, so I'm a management professor. And so I had a call from the president of Purdue at the time, Stephen Beering, Dr. Beering. And Dr. Beering says to me, we're looking for a chancellor at Purdue North Central. Would you be interested in being considered? He said, I can't give you the job, but so I said, sure, I'll try take a look. And so, when you have a job opportunity, one thing you want to do is do a lot of due diligence, right? You got to do some background information. And so my wife and I decided, Nancy and I, we drove up to the campus, and we also did a lot of reading on other campuses around here. And so way back in 1999, before I got this job, one of the things that was a little bit perplexing to myself and my wife is, why do we have two Purdue campuses so close together? Why isn't Purdue spread out all over the state like IU? So that was sort of in the back of my mind for a long time. And, I took the job and everything's been fine, but still the question lingers. And so as I have been talking to the newer chancellor at Purdue Calumet, Tom Keon, we were talking about, well, there maybe are some ways that we can cooperate and do things together. And so we've had, he's in his third year, so I'd say over the last several months, and actually probably a year, we've been talking about cooperative approaches. And you may, when you go to work someplace, you may realize that there are some efforts that are duplicated. Several people do the same job. Maybe you do it better with just one person. So we've been talking about that. So we don't really have a formal plan, or I'd show it to you, but we just put together some scenarios, and we talked to President Mitch Daniels, and then he asked us to come and talk to the Board of Trustees. So it was 1 week ago today, last Thursday, maybe, well, a little bit earlier than this, down in West Lafayette. We went in and we made this little pitch to the Board of Trustees, and it's like going before the Supreme Court. You don't even get to say anything. They just ask questions. And so if you've ever seen Supreme Court oral arguments, if you haven't, then that's what it is. But you may do all this preparation, and basically you don't get to say anything that you're prepared to say. You basically just answer questions, which was fine. And they were very supportive of the ideas. We gave them several different things. Well, we could just stay like we are, no changes, or we could think about some administrative efficiencies, or we could think of total administrative efficiencies, and so we talked about that, and they said go forward. And so that's why we put out this press release yesterday about the administrative coordination, or the administrative efficiencies that we're going to try to work out between Purdue North Central and Purdue Calumet. So let me just answer a couple questions before I turn it over to your other questions. Is the Purdue North Central campus going to close? No, absolutely not. We're a very strong campus. We're probably the strongest regional campus in the entire state system, in my humble opinion. I have to say that. But so no, there was never any indication or implication of closing Purdue North Central or Purdue Calumet. Basically, at the current level at Purdue North Central, we have a building with the replacement cost of about $165 million. And we're building a new building, Student Services and Activities Complex. That's question number 2. Are we going to continue with the building? Yes, of course. We raised our money. We're ready to go. So once that building is built, we'll have $200+ million of replacement costs in buildings on this campus alone. Nobody shuts down a place with $200 million of physical plant, especially a beautiful physical plant operation like we have here. And so that you can rest assured that we will continue to operate, and there's no thought of closing either of the campuses. We have two very nice, very strong campuses, and I think the point is they can be stronger if we work together. Now, another question will be, well, are we going to have just one chancellor over the two campuses in the future? The answer is definitely yes. That'll be some where in the future. We don't know who that'll be, but there'll be one chancellor. People have asked me, are we going to have a new site in between where the chancellor is going to have his office? The answer is no. I mean, basically, the chancellor's job, you have to be everywhere and go places. And so basically, it makes a lot of sense that the new chancellor, she would have to be, if it's a female, would have to go and spend time on this campus and would also have to spend time on the Calumet campus. And so it makes sense to keep both the chancellor's offices. And so that makes a lot of sense. Then people ask me about job loss. I mean, you all aren't as interested in that, but some of you in the room are employees, and there's no plan for any jobs to be lost. I mean, you need boots on the ground. I mean, everybody who's in, all the, as I told Keith Pfeffers, where we're still going to have food service, we have to have cleaning services. I mean, you definitely need to have employees. It's not a situation where we're thinking about cutting jobs. The only jobs that are going to be cut are some of the higher level administrative jobs. And I will say that the cuts that will be made, if there are some savings, those savings will be plowed back into student service type things, maybe new faculty lines, more faculty members. So it's what economists call a zero-sum game. You have this big pot of money. If you take $50 from one part, you put it into another part. So we're not expecting to get new revenues from this, but we're going to have the ability to shift some of the revenues around. And so, in conclusion, what the Chancellor, Kian, and I are going to do is work on a plan over the next several months to try to see how we can implement this. And we're going to need lots of help, lots of discussion. Everybody in this room can be involved if they want. Chancellor or Vice Chancellor McGinnis will be heavily involved in some of the discussions, because we have to think about it, all the different areas, what's likely to happen, and what are some of the ways that we can best make this happen. But from a student standpoint, what you're thinking about, I had a student at Purdue Cal ask me yesterday, is this going to change my degree requirements? So I turned it around to him. I said, what's your degree in? He said, English literature, I think. And I said, well, the faculty are the ones that make decisions on degree requirements. So this plan has nothing to do with degree requirements and nothing to do with that at all. So you can just rest assured that things will go along rather smoothly. And I would say the same thing for many students. This may be a bit transparent, but I wanted to get out in front of this so we don't have all these rumors going around that Purdue North Central is closing. We've been asked that on the radio a half dozen times. We're not closing. We're stronger than we ever have been. And I've been asked about losses of positions and what I do think from the student standpoint, there could be some good things for you to happen, like additional programs and just I was thinking about let's say there's 5 students on one campus that want to take a course in biochemistry, an advanced level course. Let's say there's 5 students on this campus that also want to take it. Well, we probably wouldn't run the course with only 5 students because it's not very efficient. But let's say that if all 10 wanted to take it, maybe we could have that course taught. And then people say, well, where would it be? And the answer would be, well, yet to be determined. But, we have that Porter County site that I think we have underutilized in the past. And there's some, a lot of people, if they live in Maryville and they go to Purdue Cal, that's pretty close drive for them, and over here the same thing. So I think there's a lot of possibilities for good things to happen for students. In my quote, if you saw the press release, my quote, I said, ever since I've been in this job, it always will be that the first priority I have is to do what's best for students. So, whether I'm still chancellor or not, I don't really care so much about that in the future. And I think it's been a fun time. I've had a good run, but the most important thing is that we do what's right for students and make sure that you all continue to have great opportunities for these wonderful educations that you get here and great degrees we have here. And so that's it. So I'm going to stop there. That was a little bit more than a soundbite, but not too bad. And I'll open up to any questions you have on anything I've said or any other questions about how this is going to roll out or whatever. And when you ask the question, just let me know your name in case I don't know who you are. Yes.
I have
what you?
My name is Steve. A couple of things. One, I live in Lake County.
You live in Lake County.
Specifically, I live in Cherville.
Yep.
So I'm about 15, 20 minutes from Purdue Cal.
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I drive my 45 minutes to an hour out here is because I spent 1 semester on the Purdue Calumet campus, and the program that I am in is completely run differently than how it is run here. And coming in as a junior, I would have started over as a freshman there. Here, I'm already in my senior year. So my question to you is, with the new administration, are you guys going to like somehow take a look at your curriculum, how the school business is run, think about like streamlining everything so, you know, we're all on the same page?
Yeah. Okay, Steve, good question. So that's part of the overall process, trying to look at the academic side of things. And this is something that I have to say that is yet to be determined. But one of the committees that we'll look into issues, we'll look into academic matters like that, programs and how things could work. But it's my hope that, like I said earlier, that I'm going to trip over that. It's my hope that I said earlier that we will come out of this better. And by the way, thank you for coming over to PNC. And we love to have students come over to PNC from Lake County, but there are also students from LaPorte County that go to Purdue University Calumet for certain reasons.
Right.
So I can't give you a definitive answer because we don't know the answer yet, but we are charged with giving maybe more of a definitive plan to the Board of Trustees later on in the year. So we'll know more then. But so the not to get too long-winded on this, but the idea was to start with the administrative stuff first, because all the administrative stuff we can just do it, like things like maybe in career services we'll have one person over career services that'll serve both campuses. We can do that. But then when you get into the academic matters, there's a lot more complication and difficulty, Steve, and you have to really think about different schools have different accreditations and things like that. So that's going to take a little while to try to work that out. But I will say that even today, I mean, we've been having several meetings with Purdue Cal on having a joint economics program, which I like, being a labor economist. We've also worked on a joint doctor of nursing practice, and this summer we're going to offer a couple of joint courses with them. So that's about the best I can do on that one. You got another question?
My specific suggestion, recommendation would be, out here there's a working relationship with 2-year colleges, like the community colleges. Purdue Cal does not have that working relationship. That was a huge driver for a lot of students, and I know I've seen others from Purdue Cal come over here do the same thing. I think it's just something that Purdue Cal should really take a look at, instead of being so anti, that they should, I don't want to say more embrace it like Purdue North Central has, but at least willing to work with, because that also has a big driving factor. And I just don't understand why they're so against that, you guys are so against that, and they claim, oh, we take orders from Lafayette, we can't accept these courses, but yet North Central does. It just, there's like a big gap in the way of thinking at the top level for administrators that you guys should take a look at.
No, that's a very good point. When we made this presentation, we not only had some ideas, but we had different areas of where we thought that there would be sort of the highest hurdles to jump. And one of you're talking about is culture. The cultures and the way that they do things is different from us. And so, yeah, I think we need to work on that. Okay. I appreciate the advice. Yes, sir. I think Deborah here was going to hand you a microphone.
Okay. My name's John Wilhelm. My question is, what does that mean for transferring to other campuses? So the transparency between PNC to Calumet, or Calumet PNC to West Lafayette, or the transparency between, I guess if we merge together and we're completely transparent, how are we transparent to West Lafayette? And students wanting to take courses down at West Lafayette versus Calumet or PNC. How is that going to work?
Okay, what was your name again?
John.
Well, the plan is a plan of merger between Purdue Cal and Purdue North Central, and so it should right now it should be easy to transfer courses and transfer. I mean, Paul can talk more about that than I can, but it should be any of these courses we take, especially in the core, should be courses that are transferable to any of the public schools in the state. In terms of West Lafayette, we do have students that are able to transfer down to West Lafayette, but I don't really think this would make too much of a difference. But I'll let Paul.
And the way it works now is there's one single transcript for the entire Purdue system. So every semester when we hit census, we send that whole file off to West Lafayette, and so the record's there. And I think what you run into is kind of a paper process. And as I see the paper process is, how do I get in the system so my identity exists that I can enroll in maybe an online course? And so sometimes you have to go through that hoop. It wouldn't necessarily change, let's just say, closed enrollment programs. What I mean by that is if there's a restricted enrollment or a selective program that only takes a limited number of students, like a nursing program, you won't be able to seamlessly just transition between campuses and get into a particular closed enrollment program because there's only a select number of students that go into it. But what you might be able to do is package your courses between campuses to give you greater flexibility with your schedule. If you choose to seek a degree at another campus, like West Lafayette or let's say IPFW, you probably still need to go through some type of process just to make sure that there's a seat count and there's a seat available for you. But the fluidity of going back and forth doesn't really exist because we all run our own instance of the Banner software system. And a lot of that, believe it or not, goes back to how the state accepts our file. Because believe it or not, we're accountable. And as a state institution, we actually get what's called change funding back from the state in order to support what we do. Otherwise, our tuition would be way higher than what it already is. So in order how we report it, we have to make sure that we're not double reporting, triple reporting, and things like that. So we'll vet all that out as part of the process, if that helps.
Did that help answer your question, John?
Now, what about the process as far as doing that? Is that just a matter of, I want to take a course here, you apply for the class, and if they can accommodate you, of course, if the class is already full, they can't accept you as a seat, but it's available.
A course is different than a program study. So if you need to take a course, that's completely different than majoring in something on another campus. Now, I think what the Chancellor is saying is 10 years from now, the two campuses might have a similar name and might have all the same course numbering and subject abbreviations and have a single admissions process and a single registration process. So moving between campuses, it doesn't really exist. We're the same system, the same process.
Yeah, it should be pretty seamless. I do not expect that somebody's going to get up in the morning and take a course here at 8 o'clock and then 10 o'clock drive 35 miles to go over there. I don't think that's realistic. But I do think the ability to have courses on either campus. In fact, we in certain cases, like yesterday, Professor, are any of you in construction management? Okay, so Professor Martha Garcia Sands was saying that they already do that. A lot of students, when they need a particular course and they have the same program at Purdue Cal, they come over and take the course at Purdue North Central and vice versa. So some of that can happen. But I think as we work through these issues, it's going to be a lot more seamless. And that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. Who's next? Yes. Okay.
So I have a question about with the combination, with the merging of administration and so forth. Would that be separated from the campuses? It would be on campus, and if it is off campus, does that open up the availability to more classrooms and more research areas than we have now?
I think I may have touched on that already, but basically,
I came in late. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Basically, what I was saying is there's no plan to have. What's your name again, by the way?
It's Nate.
Nate. So what I would say to Nate is no plan to have we're not going to build another structure to house administrators halfway between. That wouldn't make any sense. But the administrator, if there's like one chancellor in Paul's area, she or he would have to go between the campuses, and basically the highest level administrator usually is on a strategic level, work on strategy and stuff like that, and you would set the strategy, but there would have to be people on the ground on each of the campuses, so you wouldn't see any decline in things like advising services or things like that. I think everything would work out pretty well. But in the advising services, there may be one person who heads that's on in charge of both campuses. That's the kind of efficiencies we're talking about. I believe you had a question.
Yeah.
I think, can you wait to get the microphone? We're trying to tape this. And tell me your name, please.
My name is Kelly Sawyer,
Kelly?
and I'm in the early childhood program.
Good.
And what a wonderful program that is to have here.
That's one of the ones we have that they don't have. They would like to.
Yes. So, I graduated here at Westville High School, and then what a wonderful opportunity to have, this campus here at Westville too. I'm just wondering, they don't have that program here, and I think they're going to be, like you said, working to get it. Will I be able to further my education here, or are they going to split the classes up? I think you touched on that just a little bit.
No, I mean, to answer that question specifically, we have that program. They don't have it. I don't think they're going to try to get that program, but I think if they had some students that wanted to take some courses, maybe that might be the way to go. And similarly, they have a program over there called hospitality management. That's a good thing. There's a lot of jobs in the food industry, and we don't have that. And so that might be something that it might attract some of our students. So in the future, instead of just advertising, we have 24 programs in this new merged university. We may have 36 or 37. But no, we're very well known for early childhood education. Also, social work's one we have. That we're the only Purdue campus in the state that has social work, and so that's another one. So we're not planning on losing any programs. In fact, we're still in the mode of adding programs. I do think, though, that I believe in accountability. So if we had a program, if we were only having 2 or 3 students, I don't think we should be spending resources on it. I think we need to have programs that are popular, like the new psychology program, all the engineering programs, your program. And I would say at Purdue North Central, almost every one of our programs is in pretty good shape in terms of having the number of students we need to run the program.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, Chancellor, would it be fair to say the net would be more of a gain in programs because there would be greater accessibility between the 2 locations under the same university name because of the consolidation?
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you for the question.
Just to follow up on that, it seems like it's going to turn into our relationship. It seems like it's going to turn into our relationship with Purdue Porter County, to where you can take a course over there, and whether it's a master's or undergraduates, and the location that you're taking the class will just change, but the fluency, that's where it changes.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, I could see a course being taught there, like I was talking about microbiology. Maybe there'll be 20 students in it, and maybe 10 of them are actually through the Purdue Calumet, and we'll still hit both campuses. It'll be called the Calumet campus and probably the North Central campus. So maybe 10 of the students in the class will be from the Calumet campus, 10 from the North Central campus, and the teacher may come from either one of the campuses, and you get your credit.
And I also had another question too. How will this affect the part-time faculty versus the full-time faculty? And likewise with the enrollment, you offer more courses, the enrollment will go up, and after so many people, you're running out of room to put them for each individual class. What is the plan for the higher enrollment for the newly offered courses?
Well, you asked a lot of questions there. I don't know where to start. There's no real plan to decrease any faculty size. Like I was trying to say, we're probably going to hire more faculty. And in fact, this year at Purdue North Central, we're hiring 8 new faculty because of the good job that Vice Chancellor McGinnis has done in terms of bringing in new students. The campuses have had different budget situations over the past. We've had no deficits and we've been doing fine, and they've had some budget cutting, but they'll probably have a balanced budget next year. It is an issue that we thought about. And one of the reasons for building the new student services and activities complex building is because we recapture the bottom floor here. All these other rooms over here, a lot of them can be returned to classrooms. So then we'll have probably an additional 6 to 10 classrooms down here that will help us with additional enrollment. We also have a master facilities plan for the Purdue North Central campus, which calls for a science building to be built in the future, and that'll get us some additional classrooms. And I know on the Purdue Calumet campus, they have needs for additional building as well, and we have some rather powerful legislators. So I think all that will probably come into play.
And for the short term, what about parking?
Parking, my favorite topic. Well, you know, one thing I would say on parking. Where do you live, John?
Across the street, but I know this is probably not a problem for me, but for others.
If you live across the street and you park on campus, I don't know.
It's a problem for others. I know that much.
Well, one thing we're doing to try to work on parking for next year is they're going to start a bus service to PNC. It'll be a bus service from Michigan City to Port and to PNC. Now, maybe some of the people, you could argue, that ride the bus don't have a car, so that won't save on parking. But there could be some people that are, would just like to drive to the Market Mall, wherever the bus is going to take off from, and just leave their car there. We don't. Once we have the new building, we're going to have fewer parking spaces, but we think we'll be okay because we try to promote ride sharing and stuff like that. But if we get to the point where we need more parking, we'll have to address that. Once upon a time, earlier on, maybe 10 years ago, we were thinking about building a parking garage, and it came about just at the time when there was a big Hurricane Katrina, and prices of everything went up. So the bids that we had were for, let's say, I don't remember the number, let's say $3 million, and the pricing came in at more like 3.8 or 4 million. So we had to not do the project. But it seems to me like parking has been okay. I mean, I haven't. It's been 3 or 4 years ago when we had in the fall semester people parking on the grass a lot, and we had. I don't know if Debbie could pull up some pictures of that, but we used to have hundreds of cars parking on the grass where we're going to build the new building, and we haven't had that for a while. So I think things have been spread out pretty well.
And I think we'll look at the scheduling component related to times and availability of courses, and then you look for spreading that out. And part of that's the way we're changing some of the student programs of studies and when they're offered, which will be more of an efficiency in the sched type than it is really about just always growing. And we have alternative through Blackboard and distance learning as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, what's your name, please?
Danny.
Danny?
I was just curious.
You ever hear that song, "Oh Danny Boy"?
Yeah.
You ever sing that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was just curious how far the merger would go down. For example, would the Dean of Engineering and Technology have to work with the Dean of Engineering and Technology over at Calumet? Or would there only be one dean? Or
that's a good question, and that's one I've been asked. And I think all of that is yet to be determined. But I think sometime in the future there'd be some possibility for that to happen. I think, though, that for now things are as they are. I mean, people ask me also about athletics, and as the other chancellor said yesterday, next year we're going to play each other like we always have been. And this is going to take a little while, a couple of years for this to flesh out. And like I said, the academic part is the hardest part of it. And so, take something like nursing. They have a College of Nursing. We have nursing within our College of Science. And so, there have to be a lot of thought about that. But I guarantee there'll be one chancellor sometime in the future. As the vice chancellor roles, there'll probably be one vice chancellor over the various campuses. And how far down it goes, I can't really speculate for certain. But I think it will only be for those kind of administrative positions. But it'll be, like I was saying, could be areas like some of the job search areas I was talking about earlier. Maybe some IT. We're going to look into every area. Believe me, we'll do a thorough investigation. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I have a question about the programs and the growth between the.
What's your name, please?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, yes.
And sharing between the two campuses and being able to go between the two campuses. How does that specifically affect, like, the College of Science, who right here on PNC is trying to get a chemistry major and a master's of biology program? Mm-hmm. How is that going to affect the campus here? And so getting those programs, or is that going to stop and we're going to have to go to Purdue Cal for that now? No. The process of getting new programs is to just go through the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. And like right now, we don't have an econ program here at Purdue North Central, and they do have one at Purdue Cal. So we're working with them now, and there may be a process where we can, just jointly, we can also have that degree. So if you're thinking about, Stephanie, a new degree that they don't have, we just proceed as usual and go forward with the process for the new degree with the Commission for Higher Education. But if it's a degree they already have,
or one we already have that they want, we might be able to have some sort of a merged thing where we can just offer that degree also on our campus. So I see that as a pretty good opportunity.
My question is that because right now the College of Science is working on getting a chemistry major here and a master's of biology. Does that mean that that is going to stop and we're going to have to go to Purdue Cal?
No.
It's still going to go forward.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to give a long-winded answer. I was just trying to show that in the end, anything we're doing right now, we're going to continue. But if this, fast forward 5 years from now and you had the same question, if they already have that program, then we've got it too.
But I'm not going to be here in 5 years.
Well, I hope that's true because we want you to graduate. We want people to graduate. No, we're going to proceed with our projects right now. But I guarantee you. I mean, we have I don't know if you know this, Stephanie, but we have a pretty good track record of getting new degrees. We have 24 degrees now. We used to have 6. I mean, you can look at any other single regional campus in the state of Indiana, and we'd be in first place by so far that we'd be in the World Series already. There'd be nobody's even close. So we've had all these new programs, and we continue to have a good success on that. And the reason we're successful is because people know that we write good proposals, and we don't bring in programs we won't have students. And I can't say that for every other campus in the state. So I don't see any problem there whatsoever. Anything we think that is a good program, we'll put it forward.
All right, my name is Josh. You said, and I'm going to quote you on this, that you don't think someone will have to have an 8 a.m. class here and then drive 35 miles for a class at Purdue Cal on the same day.
Right.
We already have programs here where that's the case.
Yes.
For example, last semester I drove over 100 miles in one day for my major, and that happened 2 different times a week. What are you going to do to cut down on that? Because we already have to drive to Valpo for some classes and back to PNC. How can you guarantee us that we will not have to go from Westville to Calumet back to Westville?
Can I ask what your major is? And
elementary ed.
Elementary ed.
We went. I had an 8:30. Yeah, I had an 8:30 class at South Central Elementary. I went all the way to Valpo for a 1 o'clock class, and then came back to Westville for a 5:30 class. How are you going to cut down on that travel? Because at some point, with the way gas prices are going, it'll become cheaper to go to traditional campus than if we have to be doing all this back and forth.
Well, before I answer that question, Josh, which is a good question. So everybody in here heard Josh's question? Raise your hand if you had a similar situation to Josh. We had to do a lot of driving. So we have, is this mostly in education or business? Or you took class on Purdue Cal campus? Did you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I can't really guarantee anything. I can't guarantee anything in life, but I can tell you that the plan is to try to have as many of the courses and the programs available on, so you don't have to travel as much. But sometimes in specific areas, I would say where you're looking for, like maybe in nursing or in education, where you have to do some sort of a job. What do you call job sharing? Or
2 of those were just normal classes.
Just normal classes.
Because like our art class, we had 1 day a week where we had a field experience, but that was only for 3 weeks out of the entire semester.
Yeah.
The rest we were traveling to that school just for the class.
Well, I'm really glad you asked the question. I'm glad I see that there's quite a bit of interest in that. What I would say is we're going to have a bunch of committees and discussion on this, and maybe we can promote some discussion. You can all help us some ideas how we can minimize travel, because I don't have all the answers. I don't think Paul has all the answers either. But maybe with some help, we can try to figure out some ways to try to minimize that, because it's certainly not the intention to have people driving back and forth every day. And it looks like in this room, maybe what was that, about 10% or so, something like that, of the people that will raise their hand.
Yeah, I would say at least.
Yeah.
Deb?
This is not a new problem. I was a student here in the early 70s. I had to complete my degree because we did not have an English degree here at that time. I had to drive to Calumet 3 days a week to finish. It's not a new problem. Unfortunately, it just depends on your major, and sometimes it just can't be avoided.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that field experience always kind of presents certain challenges, and the question would be, how does a merger or a consolidation help with the accessibility to different field experiences? And I think what you'll notice when you look at the schedule in the future is a growing number of distant learning courses. Now, it doesn't apply for all majors, nor does it apply to necessarily 300 and 400 level courses, depending on the course type. But I think a lot of what the Chancellor's talking about between the two campuses isn't actual miles, with feet on the ground. Unfortunately, in your circumstances, it was, and probably maybe for a lot of other teachers in elementary ed or secondary ed. But I think what we're talking more about is connectivity through the internet and through other means. And I think yesterday the two chancellors actually talked about a greater campus presence of students in a more traditional setting and getting more students to be on campus for more credit hours than they were about some virtual, in the cloud university. So don't think that we're going away from that.
And I would just speculate, Josh, to finalize this, that given we don't cooperate much now, and we see all of this, the people in here that have all this driving to do, given the fact that we are in the future going to cooperate, we can put our heads together and try to work on this. And so I think it may actually get better. So I'm glad you brought that up. We have this on tape, and I'm taking back all of these issues, and we'll have many chances to talk about that. But yeah, in fact, the thing I like about your question is that's something that's actually measurable. See if we made any progress. Because, if I was here 3 years from now, it's the same question. If how many of you have to drive a lot? If nobody raised their hand, then at least we can say we made some progress.
I think with Josh.
Can you take the mic, please?
I think with Josh, I went to PPC for 4 of the last 6 semesters, and we understand that with field experience, we have to go to schools wherever they be, whether it be Union Mills, Michigan City, Porter Lakes, and Boone Grove. Over there, we understand that, but with the PPC classes, I think we were asked to go over there just because we have that campus, not because there's no room here or because there's better facilities over there. I think we have it, so we use it. And I think he's afraid, and we're afraid for future students that, okay, there's a spare campus at Calumet right now, so we're going to have them drive all the way over there. Mm-hmm. I think that's the fear. It's not that we don't want to go, and I think I speak for nursing students as well. Obviously, we can't have a hospital setting here on campus, but I fear that if we have room at Calumet and 90% of the classes are at PNC for a specific major, they're going to have us go over to Calumet because there's an open room or because it's more convenient for administration or something like that. Okay. I think that's the fear. So we're not complaining about having to go to schools. Yeah. It's just we're complaining.
I hear you. Yeah. Do you have any comments on the PPC situation?
Well, PPC doesn't have a lot of 300 and 400 level courses. We do run a lot of more of the gen ed courses. There are some of the sciences that you probably need, and it just depends on your curriculum. I think when we look at classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and even on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we look at time slots that are late morning and early afternoon, I'll be honest with you guys, we just don't have the classrooms. Just if we were to get 6 classrooms out of this lower level, that's a 20% increase because we only have 30 classrooms. And if we picked up 6, the increase is incredible. So in many cases, PPC allows us to run some in the day. We do probably run more in the late afternoon and evening. I think the construct was that we would be able to pull more from Porter County and maybe get some non-traditional students, but it's kind of helped us with some overflow, and depending on the course type, it's been beneficial. And I would say that it still is up in the air about how the PPC might work in the future, to be honest with you, and what type of offerings would be out there.
The PPC works really well for the MBA program, Master of Business Administration, and we're thinking about some other master's programs as well. But I hear you. I see what you guys are talking about, because if you figure, we have 30 classrooms, and we have, on campus about 3,500 students. They have about 9,000 students. I don't know how many classrooms they have at Purdue Cal, probably 100 or more. So I understand where you're coming from. We'll definitely take that under advisement and try to make sure that we don't have unnecessary travel. But I still think there are going to be some programs like I wish Professor Martha Garcia Saez was here today because she gave a rather eloquent discussion of the construction management approach and how that works, and that was interesting. Who's next? Yes, you got your microphone. Good.
Yeah. Born and ready. Just a quick question about how the financial situation between the two campuses is going to be. Will that be shared? Will it be brought under the same umbrella? And if so, who's Greece and who's Germany in that situation? And just as a quick rejoinder about the parking, that if any of us got to park 20 feet away from Shorts every day, then I don't think we would see a problem with parking either.
So what's your name?
Sean.
So Sean was my parking spot. You know that. You can write that down. I think you asked a good question about the budgeting. Right now, we have totally separate budgets. We don't get anything from West Lafayette. We don't get anything from Purdue Cal. In fact, we pay an administrative tax to West Lafayette, which I must say I was very happy I just got that reduced because we can then spend the money on things that we should spend on, like students. But this is something that will have to be discussed and see how this goes in the future. This is one of the things that can't be done just like that by the trustees say do it, because this would require almost legislative action. Because right now, there's a Purdue North Central campus and there's a Purdue Calumet campus. And so in order to merge the budgets, that would actually have to be a legislative act, and so that would take some time. I don't know if we're going in that direction or not. I know for now there's no merging of the accounts or anything. We have our own budgets. We actually have no deficit accounts. We're doing pretty well. We have given raises to our employees the last couple of years. Other campuses have had freezes and things like that. So I think that's all yet to be determined. But I could envision a scenario in the future where there was one budget for the two campuses, but that's not where we're at now. But thank you. It's a good question. And as far as my parking spot, I think Debbie, one of these days when I'm gone, I'm going to make him an honorary best student of the day and let him park in my spot.
They should know you pay for that parking spot.
Right. You have to pay for it. That's right. Yeah, people think I get that for free, but no, I pay big bucks for it. Go ahead. Next question. Did you hear? Who's next? Please. You have a microphone? Paul's got it.
All right, so I think overall this is going to be like a really good idea that's going to strengthen both campuses, and I think that if done properly, it'll bring a lot of benefits to all the students. Going forward, though, you've talked a lot about discussions and ways to get feedback. Is there any way that we can promote to students for them to contact you with issues or like join in on discussion boards? Any way to make sure that the students feel like they're with the process all the way through, so you kind of don't get left behind or anything like that?
That's a good idea. Yes. We'll definitely have students involved, but I'll have my executive assistant, Debbie Nielsen, put out some sort of whatever we call a discussion board. Any student who has any suggestion or any idea for anything relating to this process, they can send me the idea. Actually, they did that in West Lafayette when Mitch Daniels first came on. He called it ideas for efficiency, and he had hundreds and maybe even 1,000 ideas. So I'd be happy to have anybody. I mean, a lot of the ideas I've heard today are ones I've heard a little bit of, and some of them are a little different than I've heard, different twists. So if anybody's got a suggestion, and you can always bring it up to Paul as well. And believe me, we'll have our administrative team talking about these things, and it'll be something that we'll take very seriously. So thank you for the idea. It's a good idea.
We do have Keith Weber in the back and Amanda, and they'll be working with the student government. And as we
probably get more structure, we could probably plug the students into the structure, whatever it might be.
We'll definitely have some committees with where we get student input. Like one thing, nobody's mentioned this today, but people have asked me the last few days, what's the name of this new entity going to be? And my answer, I really don't know. I mean, as I told you, we're going to have we'll still have the Purdue North Central campus, we'll have the Purdue Calumet campus, but we're probably going to have to have some discussion of what we should call, is it Purdue Northwest, is Purdue Lake? I don't know. We'll have to think about that. Yeah, Josh?
So you're combining your administration. You want to come under one name. What is that going to do to the same organizations on each campus? For example, is PNC going to keep the PNC student government?
is PNC going to keep the PNC athletic, or are you going to take away those opportunities from campus involvement?
No, that's a really good question. I think just as we're building a student service and activities complex, because we know the importance of activities, we'll continue to have, and we need to have activities on the campuses. On my list of tough issues, one of the top ones on my list was the other thing you mentioned, Josh, athletics. I think Chancellor Kidd thinks also that athletics is a good way to recruit students and a good way to build up spirit on campus. And so that's one we'll have to talk about. They're going a little bit different direction in athletics than we are. They have more teams. They've really changed quickly. Like it used to be, we had more teams than them, but now they're up to 12. And I think they're going to go, and they want to try to go NCAA Division II. And personally, I'm very happy with where we're at with the NAIA. I think it's a good match for us. And so I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. But my personal preference would be that we maintain the athletics separately. And there have to be clubs and things on each campus. But, you know, if you think broadly enough, Josh, is it possible that something like the American Sign Language Club might want to branch out over both campuses? That would be fine with me. And I think you'd probably agree with that, because they have meetings a lot of different places anyway. But yeah, we won't lose the. One of the nice things about having all the students on campus, like Paul said, is its opportunity to have clubs and do things like that. So we'll continue to do that.
How is that logistically going to work? Because, like you said, what are we going to call this new entity? If we're going to take two versus one, how are you going to have two different levels of representation?
Well, I think what the Chancellor's saying is that the two going into one is more of a management structure. It's not necessarily a student organization structure. Dean Weber actually was at the architect's office yesterday afternoon, still looking at the student space, still planning for the student government, student clubs and organizations and the activities and the athletics. So what we're not going to do is we're not going to suddenly start changing, and say that we're not going to have student government. Basically, student government, student clubs, and organizations and activities are one function of the campus experience. We're not going to take that experience and say, if you want that experience, you need to go somewhere else. And so what we'll do is we'll still do those things. You'll still have it. You'll still be connected, and they'll still be here on our campus. So there's no net loss for the students, if you think about it.
And I might add that, as an example, Josh, like Purdue West Lafayette has a faculty senate. Purdue Cal has a faculty senate. Purdue North Central has a faculty senate. We all sort of do our own thing. And even though we're separate from Purdue West Lafayette, I report to the president, but we have pretty much our own budget. We do our own thing. How do those different entities talk to each other? Well, they have this thing called the IFC, the Inter-Faculty Council, where the representatives from all the different ones that talk to each other. So this could be, you could have your student government here, student government there. You could have some sort of a joint board where they talk to each other. So all those things, a lot of that is yet to be worked out. That would be some of these discussions that would have to be had. But I'm glad you're bringing it up. It's a good point. It doesn't make any sense to have two viable campuses and not have activities on each of the campuses. So we'll continue to do that.
My name's Matt.
Matt, I know you. I know about everybody that's been asking questions, except a few of them.
It's taken several years for Purdue North Central to get a reputable name with employers.
Yes.
With a new name, say it's Purdue Northwest, employers now are going to be like, what is that campus? Is it a reputable campus? Why should I choose this employee over somewhere else? Yeah, because it's finally Purdue North Central. I feel that it is finally getting recognized as a good school and not a bad school that you just have to go to. Yeah. So
I think
what's that change going to be?
Well, two things. I think first of all, we'll continue to be known as the North Central campus, and so that people know that. And secondly, many people get jobs right around the area, and it's not so much the name of the place, but who the reputation we have. Like I went down to Van Air the other day, and every time I walk in Van Air, which is right on, it's 300 north, right by the Harley-Davidson dealer in Michigan City. almost every employee they have in there is a PNC grad. They love our graduates, and so if we tell them that we have a different name, a little bit different administrative structure, but we still have the same product. You still have Dean Brady in the engineering school. You still have Professor Laurel Matthews. We're turning out the same good students. I don't think it'll make much of a difference. Where that would make a difference is if it was a brand new approach, or if we totally did something like go from public to private school or whatever, and changed our name totally. But I don't think it'll be as bad as you think.
What about the companies that aren't from around here?
Well, the companies that
change.
Yeah, well, if it's like a company from Dallas or Austin, Texas, I would say that they're probably not too familiar with us anyway. We just have to do a better job of telling them who we are.
The good news is a lot of the brand goes from this point up.
Yeah.
So we'll still have Purdue University, and that's what your diploma says, Purdue University.
You may, if I have some friends, I'm good friends with the president of Valparaiso University, but I will say this unashamedly that I've been all over the world, and I used to teach a lot in Budapest, Hungary, and I was at this fancy place called the Fisherman's Bastion overlooking the river, and I had a Purdue shirt on, and I'd have people come up to me all the time. Oh, you're from Purdue. So Purdue is known all over the world. So my point is, in the locality here, maybe if you talk to people, somebody said, well, Valpo versus Purdue North Central. Valpo, maybe it's a private school. It's got a pretty illustrious name around here. But you go around the world, you go to Budapest, Hungary, how many people are going to say they know about Purdue versus Valparaiso? No. And so the thing is that Purdue North Central, maybe they haven't heard of that, but the big name is Purdue. You have your degrees from Purdue. That's going to sell big time. I have a degree from Minnesota. That's what sells big time. People know that's a reputable place. And so like Paul said, the reputation we have as being a Purdue University campus will always be there. And I told that to the trustees the other day. And they asked me about the name. I said, I don't think that the name matters all that much as long as we agree on something we all can agree on. But I think the key thing is everybody gets a degree from Purdue University. That's what, when I hand you all your degrees, it says Purdue on it, and then you have something to be proud of for the rest of your life, because everybody knows about Purdue. I used to go to South Korea and run alumni receptions, and I could, if they even knew I was coming from Purdue, I'd draw 100 people to a restaurant in Korea just because of Purdue, because it's so well known for everything we do. But you're right. I'm glad you said that about our reputation building up, because I think I'm really proud to see more people wearing Purdue North Central T-shirts and logos, stuff like that. Cassie?
I'm not a student anymore, but it's a student-related question. One thing that was really special to me when I was a student here, and that I know matters to a lot of my peers, was how accessible the administrators were for students, and your open office hours, and the fact that you always talked about how it was nice that you knew people's names when you saw them in the hall and could talk to students and ask how they were doing. That would change a lot if the administrators were splitting their time between two campuses. So I guess I'm just wondering if you see that will change as well.
Yeah, probably somewhat. But, culture is a big deal. And that's another one that was on my long list of problematic areas. How do we deal with that? The way Ivy Tech does it, they have the one chancellor for the big region, but then each of the one of the campuses has a dean. So you have somebody that's a friendly face you can see. So that might be one way, but that all has to be discussed. But I think you're right. I mean, one of the nice things, and I feel, when you go from one campus, a small size like this, to a bigger campus, you can just feel this is more like a family atmosphere. And I know most of the employees here, and I know most of their families. And when you get to 10,000, that many, it's harder to do that. So there probably will be some change on that. But I hope that we'll be able to say that whoever's around here will still be accessible. But once you get a broader range that you have to cover, you spread yourself out. So it's just a reality.
Okay, thank
you. We'll get you with the mic over here. If anybody has to go to class, I know people are walking out. That's fine. Just go.
Okay. It's no secret that Purdue Cal, they need a lot of upgrades in the building in terms of the classrooms, structure-wise, the equipment, technology, computers, stuff like that. And I believe when I was there, I even had to pay a fee as part of my tuition, like an upgrade fee or something. My question is, since the administrations are merging and you guys are going to redo the budget, it's going to be different now, is there any talk about raising the tuition here to help cover that deficit and the upgrades and the problems that Purdue Cal has?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, well, I shouldn't mention this today. I have a press release coming out on this, but I think talking about tuition, we'll have a fairly exciting press release coming out within a week or so about tuition on the Purdue North Central campus.
Okay. Now, with that being said, I know Purdue Cal has, say, tuition discounts for like different groups, like say veterans get a different tuition rate. If you're on a certain like academic level, you get a discount. Purdue North Central doesn't do that. Is that something that's going to change now? Are you going to take that policy that Purdue Cal has? Are you gonna stick to what you're currently doing?
Well, we're not going to do exactly what Purdue Cal does. I'm not really even sure what they do, to tell you the truth. But we are going to make an announcement about something on tuition I think many students will find interesting. Okay? Wait, it'll be before you're too much old, I can tell you that. Maybe a week or so.
My name's Ellen. Earlier in the afternoon, you had mentioned that you were start doing combined classes with the Doctor of Nursing. Is that something that's going to come to PNC, or is that just going to stay at Purdue Cal?
Actually, that's a good question. Ellen or Helen?
Ellen.
Ellen. That's another example of cooperation. There's a degree called DNP, Doctor of Nursing Practice, and so the discussion was always the regional campuses can have undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, but you can't have a doctoral degree. So we made a big push, myself, Chancellor Keon, and Chancellor Vicky Carwine from IPFW, that why couldn't the regional campuses have what they call a practice doctorate degree in DNP? So we have the proposal. All three campuses are involved in the proposal. It's been approved by the Purdue Board of Trustees, and I think it's awaiting final approval by the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. And once that's done, that program will be available. That's the program they already have at Valparaiso University. Being an economist, I can tell you that since our tuition would be a lot cheaper, what do you think is going to happen? Probably we might cannibalize some of their students, but yes, it'll be available at first. Because we're smaller than the other two, and I see Diane Spoljorek here. She can help us out if I get this wrong. But the IPFW and the Purdue Calumet campus will be the ones that are most involved. But when we're ready to come on board, we definitely will be involved in that as well. Did I get that right? Okay. Anything else you want to say about that? DNP? Come take a microphone. This is Professor Diane Spoljorek, who's the head of our nursing area.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, the DNP, or Doctorate of Nursing Practices, certainly in Purdue Calumet will be primarily beginning it based off of Purdue West Lafayette. And it's going to work. It's going to be a system program so that you can flow in and out of the class as where they're located. A lot of it will be online. That's another reason why that's available to happen. And then also, if we start with things here as a focus, we'll be doing a lot of the master's courses that would go towards either a master's or a DNP. So that's down the line, but we are excited that at some point we will be able to offer that here as well.
Thank you, Diane. But see, that's a great question, Ellen. It feeds right into what I'm saying about we haven't combined colleges or anything like that. We don't have one dean or anything, but we have a great program where people are cooperating. And that's the thing I think we can do more and more of. And we have some of that that's being done already. Anybody else? Yes. John?
How is this going to affect the help desk? As far as if I'm taking a class here, taking a class that, is it going to be affected? How is that going to work as far as the help desk?
You mean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think the help desk is always going to be an important part of a service to a student. I don't think it's going to be affected in a sense that the help desk would go away or it would be a virtual help desk. I think the help desk will exist. It will be here on campus. How it might change as far as, resetting passwords and stuff like that would probably be a very similar process. It's more on the back end. So I don't see anything negatively happening to the help desk whatsoever.
And as I said, we want to do everything we can to promote success for students and make this the idea behind this is to help students. And so I don't see any big changes there. Yes, please.
Well, because now that John so lovingly mentioned the help desk, because you guys said you guys were going to combine like a phone, maybe combine
I'm
phones.
just giving some examples, yes.
Yeah. Are you guys, because I think it would be really hard for somebody from, let's say, like a professor in a classroom here calls the help desk and they end up getting somebody in Calumet.
Right. It's like
So-
when you have a credit card question, you get somebody in Indonesia.
Yeah, it'd be really hard for someone in Calumet who probably has never seen our area or classrooms to help somebody. Would there end up being like separate lines saying if you're on Calumet, you call this number. If you're on,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yet to be determined. But what I would do is, we got the suggestion earlier to, send in ideas like that. I'd send that in because we'll read all that stuff, and I think that's a good thing to think about. Because I agree with what you're saying, John. I think that if you have a help desk and you need to have somebody that can help you.
Chancellor, vision forward after the next building gets built. What's on the brick and mortar docket after that?
Well, we definitely we want to build a science building, and so that would be one after that. And there's also there's some athletic fields that are on the master plan as well. So we have a lot of possibilities, and then also way in the future, I guess if we get enough students who want to live here residentially, we might even put some small residential apartments on the campus. We have a question in the back.
Yes, Marlene.
Marlene, okay.
I just have a quick question. As far as the merging, what you're looking at, are you looking at additional online classes between the two campuses or additional classrooms or both? And do you know what those percentages are? I mean,
No.
just as an idea what you're looking at?
No.
I myself, I'm a non-traditional student, and I don't lean towards those distant learning classes. I feel that they're not useful. I think that the professors bring a lot more to the classroom if they've been in the workforce.
You know, Marlene, one of the things Chancellor Keehan said yesterday I couldn't agree with more is the idea behind this merger is not to make this an online university. We want to, like Paul said earlier, we want to have more traditional students. So, yes, there may be some additional online or some. I'm sure that is something on the academic side that faculties will meet and discuss those kind of things, and will. But no decisions have been made yet. But believe me, we're going to have a strong presence on the ground in both Purdue North Central and Purdue Calumet. And I believe what you said is very important that we have access to the professors that teach our classes. When I used to be at Purdue West Lafayette, one of my jobs as the associate dean in the management school was to assign teachers to classes. And if we had, in the management school, if I had 25 sections of the managerial statistics class, I had one professor and I had 24 TAs. So you have a much better deal here in the sense you get a lot of professors. And if they're not a professor, at least they're a profession, somebody who's been in the field and done the work. So they have a lot to bring to the table.
Chancellor, would it be a fair statement that if we have chemistry professors now and they could then increase or change the types of courses that they would teach, that then those courses could possibly be counted towards a chemistry degree without necessarily changing who the faculty are? It's just that they would be teaching some different courses, and those courses then could fit into a program of study.
Yep. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, I'm graduating this May, and I'm hopefully going to get a job in the enrollment services office being a recruiter. So when we do merge, how is that going to affect recruiting-wise? Are we going to recruit to one university, Purdue Northwest, or are we still going to recruit to the North Central campus and Calumet campus?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, congratulations on graduation. I'm glad to give you your degree and glad you want to try to work here. It's a good place to work. I can say that after having been here for 15 years. I've really enjoyed this. I think the spirit of all the people around here is really nice, and this is kind of a family atmosphere. It's been a lot of fun. But to answer your question specifically, that would be one of the discussions that would have to take place in the enrollment, management, and student services areas to decide how they want to do that. In the future, I could see one application where a person could say their intention was to go to the North Central campus, or their intention might be to go to the Calumet campus, but all that will have to be determined. Yes, sir.
I would also say that the state is looking at a common application for all state institutions.
So that's probably going to happen anyway, yeah. And he's heavily involved in it, so he knows about that. Yes, sir.
When do you think this merger will take place? Do you think this will be relatively soon in the future, or do you think this might be a couple years down the road?
Probably more like a couple years for everything to take place. But what you're going to see almost maybe month by month, you may see some announcements about different things. But we'll still do some things differently. The thing I mentioned earlier about the tuition thing, that's going to be a Purdue North Central initiative. Some other initiatives that Purdue Calumet has. But for instance, just to give an example, they have a lot of open positions right now in some higher level administrative jobs. Maybe an early thing that could happen is they may not fill that position, and if there's somebody here that could fill that role for both campuses, that might be some of the early things. And we have some other areas that may be early things as well. But as you move more and more into the academic side of things, that's going to take a lot of discussion, and the student services areas will take a lot of discussion. So this was going to take a couple of years probably to flesh out, and it's probably going to be a work in process for quite a while. But that's a really good question. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, earlier you said like Purdue Cal has like deficits and stuff like that, budget cuts. Now let's just say that when we do merge and, well, let's say Purdue Cal, their debt's paid off and no more budget cuts, but let's just say PNC, we're looking at deficits, enrollment falling, students transferring. What would you do about that? What would be your outlook on that?
Well, first of all, I should make it clear that Purdue Cal has righted its ship, and that they fully expect to have a balanced budget this year. So, there was some stuff they had to do in the past, but we haven't had to do that. But so, Purdue Cal is going to have a balanced budget, so I think they'll be in good shape.
Chancellor, every year they have to clear their books and become zero, right?
Yeah. So the other question was, what would happen if we lost students and had deficits? Well, first of all, I would say I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will happen because we have such a nice campus and the atmosphere and the word gets around. It's sort of a cultural thing. But basically, if you have issues like that, what you have to do is look at priorities. I mean, let's say I was facing a $2 million deficit right now. First thing I'd do is I'd look at all the different programs we have, and if we have some programs that have very few students, I'd try to think about having to, either eliminate or cut down those programs. Certain areas where we teach perhaps courses that have small numbers of students, I'd try to think about that. I'd try to think about things like limited term lectures. I mean, you'd have a plan for how to deal with that. But we have very strategically gone into this. See, when I first came, being an economist, I think it helps me, and also I'm a mediator and arbitrator, so I know how to deal with people and resolve disputes my entire life. Some really tough ones too. I can tell you some that you might find interesting. But so we went into this with the approach of trying to have programs that would be popular. Like when I first came here, I looked at our list of programs and it was like going into the grocery store and the shelf was empty. We didn't have anything. We had associate degrees and we had about 6 bachelor's degrees. Now we have 24 degrees. And it doesn't have to be a rocket scientist. That's why we have so many more students. And we have degree programs that other people don't have. I mean, early childhood education, social work. We have degree programs that are psychology other people have, but that's been really popular. So I know how to deal with those situations, but I don't think we'd have to. Do you have a question, Coach?
Yes. Just a comment and a question. My name is Larry Blake. I've been a part of the school since '89, and the growth that I envisioned that when I first came here was it's all blossomed out. When you saw there was no tech building, there were no dugouts for baseball fields, and there was a library upstairs that we tried to get Purdue North Central on sweatshirts, and it said it won't sell. We're all Lafayette, Purdue based here. So the changes that have come about over the years have been, at least from what I've seen, have been actually dramatic. And there's always going to be change, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And I think that a lot of people here have a lot of pride in those changes, and they've been all positive. And I saw the day when, if we turned our athletic programs over to the youth instead of 35-year-old and 40-year-old baseball players, that our campus would really grow and swell. And I think we've accomplished that. And I actually saw a day when this campus would be larger and just more beautiful than even Valparaiso. And I think we'll achieve that as well. We have the room to grow. So I'm fully vested in here, and these changes I see that are needed. But my question to you, as far as athletics go, do you see the day where these programs, and you've addressed each area for Calumet as well, do you see the day where we will be forced to combine to having one team under one umbrella? And combined with that, do you see funding for the future for athletics, and I would say baseball right now in particular? Are we at a standstill with the field? Are we going to play with what is until these other changes? So,
well, good questions. That was high on my list of the most difficult scenarios that we need to deal with. But I've already told you my preference is we maintain our own separate athletic programs, because there are two separate campuses and we have two different approaches as far as I see to athletics right now. And I like the fact of having the fields on campus. You know, we have the nice baseball field. We're going to have the basketball. We have a softball field that I really like to get finished out. Then we could almost have all our sports right here on campus. So that's my view. Now, having said that, you know, there'll be some discussions on this, and so for the short term, or for at least foreseeable future, we'll continue the way we are. And I hope that we can continue that way until, even with the merged operation, that we'd have our Purdue North Central athletic teams and also Purdue Calumet campus would have their teams. Because like I said, I think they're going to try to go NCAA, and I think for us with a smaller group, it's smarter to stay NAIA. But again, like when answering Josh's question, I can't guarantee anything, but I'll certainly be in there pitching, and we need to make our case when we have these meetings. So listen, I've got a phone call I got to get on. I would, if I have one more question, I'd take it, but I really need to roll.
I guess it can be quickly. It's a last bundle up question. Just to consolidate, what is your wish list? If you had your way and your dream, your vision for what's to become of this? Well,
I'll end it where I started. I would just like to make sure that everything we do on my wish list is something that is to the benefit of students, and we keep students in mind, number one, and because we're basically here for the purpose of educating students. We're not here for the purpose of hiring lots of administrators. Okay. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate it.